The Press Box is your go-to for pre- and post-game all football season if you're going to check out the Griz. The Press Box is right next to the walking bridge adjacent to the University of Montana campus, and they have some of the best selection of beers on tap. They got awesome food. If you need a place to gather pre- or post-game before Griz football games, head to the official headquarters of Griz Athletics. Griz football season is here, so don't miss any of the action. The Press Box, Missoula's finest sports bar and the official headquarters of Grizzly Athletics.
Well, we already got to rename the show because we call it Tuesdays with Tootell, but we haven't been able to hook up on a Tuesday in a month already. So
No, we did last week.
that's right, it was. I got on
It
my
was.
confused because, I went time traveling at the Gorge and then it was Labor Day and, it's just kind of how it goes, man. I felt like you, though, last weekend. Ryan Tootell, by the way, joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown
Hello, everybody.
podcast series. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday after my Dave Matthews excursion and drove 475 miles from the Gorge to Eugene, Oregon. And man, did I love it. I loved every second of it. I totally thought it was great. I watched the sunrise over the Columbia River Gorge, like south of Goldendale in Washington. Man, it was like one of the great driving experiences of my life. I loved it.
I hate getting up, but I love being up in the
Yes.
morning and driving, as you know, I do a lot of, and the both the golden hours, the morning and the evening twilight are just not to be missed, man, especially on the road. And I mean, it is. I mean, we live in a spectacular part of the country, no doubt about it. But it ain't the only one. And you take that gorge down and then 84 across and into Oregon, and then you get into like some high, it's not really high desert, but it's high dry, but the mountains and everything. I mean, it's just spectacular the whole run, man. So that's awesome. And yeah, you got to see your boy Dave, and then you got to see a real good college football team play another real good college football team that's in a subdivision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, what a deal.
I mean, that was my number one impression, and you'll appreciate this because Oregon versus whoever from the Big Sky Conference is going to be a mismatch. It has been a mismatch for forever. I mean, 30 years since the Ducks really ramped it up, and certainly over the last 15 since they've really gone,
Yep.
next level upper echelon. This is a whole different level, and it's not just Oregon. You can tell the state of college football seeping through when I was there in Eugene, because every single guy on the roster is making money, right? Like when they went with their fourth string defense, it was all freshmen because freshmen can play in games now without burning their red shirt. So they played their entire basically best freshman team. They had four five-star defensive linemen or five-star players in their front seven. The other three were four stars. And they had the number one and number two cornerbacks in the country as their corners, and then another like four-star safety. The number of stars must have been 50 plus. It's just so indicative of what it is now. It used to be like once Oregon got to their third string or fourth string, you'd see a guy from Clackamas or Klamath Falls or,
Right.
Bend. They only have one guy from the entire state of Oregon on their two deep. They're all from everywhere. They're all 4 and 5 star recruits. It was so revealing to me the state of college football.
Yeah, of all the things that have shifted, and I'm actually a proponent of a lot of it, but one of the things that I do uh that is not all the way gone, but has certainly receded, and I don't see it coming back, is the regionality of players and players playing for their home state teams in numbers that make it homey.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like not just a guy or two,
Sure.
but like, there used to be a lot of Oregon players playing for the Oregon Ducks or for the
Absolutely.
Beavers. And it's just not nearly as present now. And
I mean,
I don't think it's going to be.
to be fair, there is still the sort of you can get the hometown flavor if you're in Florida or
Well,
Georgia,
exactly. No, right,
and
right.
Ohio, but like everywhere else, even California, but like everywhere else, it's not really happening. So
No, and I mean, how it's not clear to me that Alabama and Florida have ever cared as a fan base that there were Alabama and Florida players on their team.
Right.
I'm sure it's noted. I'm sure, everybody pays attention to that. There's nothing that's not known about these programs when you talk about the amount of media attention and the amount of eyeballs, ears that they have on them. But you put the jersey on, you go play. It doesn't matter if you're from Timbuktu. You go do it. But here, especially in the Northwest,
Yes.
I think there's a real tie to kids from the place, and I think that still exists in the FCS to some degree, and certainly in the Big Sky. But even that is not what it once was in terms of half the roster or better being made up of Montana kids, so to speak.
Well, that's what I wonder is we had Chase Mason on the show earlier this week. He's the quarterback for South Dakota State. He was a three-star recruit in high school, which is a very rare thing for a South Dakota kid as a prospect, as big as you can be.
Yeah.
He had offers from, the Iowa States and Kansas States of the world, and he chose South Dakota State. And then he sat behind Mark Gronowski for several years waiting his turn, and now he's the man at South Dakota State. That only happens, though, if he's from there and he dreamed about playing there.
Yeah,
It's the same thing that's happening right now with the Montana schools. Adam Jones was the runner-up for National Freshman of the Year last year at Montana State. He could have gone a lot of places. I know he had contact with several Power 5 type programs that are in the Rocky Mountain region. He decides to stay because he loves Bozeman. He wants to stay in Montana. Taco Dowler, same thing. Several guys on the Griz, same, especially last year, Junior Bergen being the greatest example of guys that stay. So I just wonder, that is the advantage that the small school, rural FCS teams have right now. I just wonder, how long does it last? Like, how many times can a Taco Dowler or a Junior Bergen or an Adam Jones say no, right? Like, if Junior Bergen said no once, if he was coming back this year, though, could he say no again? I don't know. It's just a really interesting dynamic to me. How long do you think it's going to last?
I don't know. And I mean, I guess I generally atomize this stuff where I take it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, Junior Bergen got cut by the San Francisco 49ers. I wonder if Junior Bergen thinks, man, maybe I should have cashed a check last year for at least something, and I don't know. He
did sign with the practice squad, so he is making some nice practice squad money.
And I'll also say this. He got a chance that is no guarantee he would have gotten if he would have left. I mean, he was the standout kick returner in the entire country at the FCS level, and really one of the standout kick returners, period,
for sure,
in the country, because he did it at the University of Montana.
Yes.
And that, I think, is not to go unnoticed and unappreciated. You get that type of kick return situation from a Bobby Houck coach special teams unit, punt in, punt out, kick in, kick out.
Right.
All of a sudden, you can find yourself on an NFL roster. So,
right.
It's a hard balance to find. But again, these are the questions that these kids have to weigh. That's why I've said to you before, the choice to stay is every bit as big as the choice to leave. Like, the choice to leave is more noticed because it's a guy going, and if a kid stays, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, he's here again. But like, no, every single year, not every guy, because not every guy has an opportunity, but many of, let's just say, every starter, the Division I level, every year has a decision to make now. Yes. Period. Every single one of them.
Yep.
And a lot of them choose to stay, and a lot of them choose to go, and that's just what we got.
Yep.
Being in this industry since I was in college, one of the things I think we take the most pride in is Aspen Sound's been such a presence in Missoula for almost 40 years. The cool parts about our job is people always ask us, what do we do for a living? I sell fun, whether it's as simple as window tints all the way up to integrating a backup camera into a factory screen. I'm pretty excited about the options we can present.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn. 8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Yep. We're going to come back to this thought because I do think that one of the great narratives that's going on heading into this Montana State South Dakota State game is both sides, the guys that are leading the way are the ones that chose to stay. And they're kind of all like, hey, we lost all these guys. Gronowski transferred to Iowa. Tommy Malott plays for the Raiders. What are these teams going to do? And all these guys are like, well, what about us? We stayed. We're here. Hold that thought. I want to ask you more about the NFL stuff, though, because you and I were kind of diagnosing some of these guys and their chances. I thought it was pretty telling that only 4 players with Montana ties made active rosters. All 4 of them former Bobcats. That's not the telling part, though, although that is also a conversation to be had. But Troy Anderson, Alex Singleton, Ty Okada, Daniel Hardy. All 4 of those guys have the same thing in common. They've been in the NFL for at least 4, if not, like Alex Singleton, I think 9 or 10 years.
Yeah, long time. Yeah.
Nobody that was a rookie made it. And I think that says something about we did have guys that made practice squads. Dylan Cook made the Steelers practice squad. Patrick O'Connell, both former Griz, he made the Seahawks practice squad. And then you had Bergen, Sebastian Valdez made the Niners practice squad. Tommy gets picked up by the Saints earlier this week, so he's on the New Orleans practice squad. I just wonder if that's going to be like the more common path now from guys from Montana, where you have to go cut your teeth for several years before you actually get a shot. A la Okada or Hardy, like both those guys sort of toiled for a while. Now they have chances on active rosters.
I think that is going to be a very common path, and I think that's been a fairly common path in some cases before. But I think that the far more common thing that's going to happen in terms of going not to a practice squad but going to a roster is the Cam Scadaboo story, where the kids who come and play 2-3 years,
right,
can be claimed, by the university. Hey, we're here, but then they leave for a year to a Power 4 school and then go to the league.
Right.
And I think that is, we've seen that, from guys at the University of Montana that have transferred out, going to Nebraska and then going in and playing in the NFL.
That's what Valdez did. I mean, he went to Washington for a year.
And so I think what we're going to see is, instead of guys staying the whole run and then going straight from the University of Montana or Montana State Pro Day to the combine or to the draft, you're going to see, and then to a 53-man roster. Like, when you're at that level, I think you're going to see guys who junior, senior year, they're playing, Big 10, Big 12, maybe SEC football, whatever the case might be. And then they're going, and then it's like, hey, they started in Missoula, they started in Bozeman. I think that's the way it's going to go.
And man, and I wonder about this because I think that for a guy like Connor Moore, who was an All-American for the Cats last year as a sophomore, transfers to Michigan State.
Yeah.
I think that is the right move because he needs film against other NFL guys. I thought that killed Marcus Ware and Brandon Casey, Bobcat and Griz, respectively. They both were NFL prospects that had good pro days. They both were multiple-time first-team all-conference guys. Ware was a multiple-time first-team All-American. He had no film against NFL players. Like, his only film against NFL guys was the times that they played NDSU. Other than that, none. Because even though the Cats have played, FBS games, you also go against any NFL guys in New Mexico or Wyoming, so he had no film against it.
Yeah.
More, if he can solidify his starting spot at Michigan State, guess what? He's playing an NFL guy every single week.
Yeah.
So that, I think, helps you. I wonder about the skill guys, though, because Scadaboo went from Sac State to Arizona State, was a Heisman candidate, and rushed for like 1,300 yards, and he tore it up. But Torrey, who went from Montana to Nebraska, he got pretty fortunate because he did not tear it up in Nebraska. He had a fine year. He got drafted because he ran a 4.4. And because scouts are there to see him or whatever. I just know what the balancing act is. If you can go be Cooper Kupp and catch 80 touchdowns, or if you would have had to play or gotten to play at Missouri or even Washington or Washington State, and your statistics are 1/3 as good, I guess what's the balancing act there? I just wonder if that's a give and take, right?
It is. And I mean, I've always felt that like projections are so hard.
Right.
Like, I,
Right.
I, you hear about I'll go to basketball for this one, but Damian Lillard played at Weber State the whole way through and had scouts drooling over him. And what did he go? He either sixth or seventh overall.
Sixth. Yep. Sixth.
Sixth overall. But I watched him play against Will Cherry,
Right.
and Will Cherry looked to me, big dumb Tootell, every bit the point guard that
Totally.
Damian Lillard looked. So what are you seeing? Like what is he doing? This guy over here he's going in the lottery, and this
Right.
dude over here is going to Europe.
Right. Right.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
And so what is it like? You talk about Marcus Ware. This dude is all American,
Right.
pencils out in every way that you possibly could.
He
You
had
want to do measurables?
he had the highest graded film in college football last year
Right.
for offensive lineman.
And is he a few pounds lighter than you want at the position? Maybe is his bench? I mean, I don't know what that stuff is, but like, can't get a look.
Totally.
Cannot get one. But this guy over here played tight end. They want him to start right tackle.
Right.
It's like
Right.
so. These are the things where I go, well, they're obviously and this is not me criticizing them. This is just me saying I'm the one who I just find it really, really difficult, and especially at the FCS level to project.
Yes.
Like when you see guys like even a guy like Troy Anderson, I sit here and I go, my God, I've never seen anything like him. Does that make him an average Ohio State football player?
Right. Right. Right.
I don't know. But no, it doesn't. He went in the second round and he's
Right.
in the league. And, let's just pray for health for the guy, because if he could actually be out there, he would be a difference maker on defense in the NFL,
Yes.
And you go, okay, so now like if you see enough of those, maybe you kind of go, well,
Sure.
it starts to get there. But those are the things where I think, when we go watch guys play, it doesn't take long to pick out who's better than the rest. When you talk about watching a college football game, especially, and you can see the two or three guys that really pop, and you go, okay, that's real. But from there to say, okay, well, what's your path to the NFL like?
Yes.
And the common wisdom, right, is if you're good enough, they'll find you. I think that is true, but it is sometimes not true.
I think there's a certain element too now where there's more than enough guys that are good enough. I mean, you take a 53-man roster, 32 teams. That's 1,700 guys that are good enough to be on active rosters in the NFL.
Right.
Take another 32 teams with 17-man practice rosters. So let's say roughly another 400 guys. We're saying 2,000 guys.
2,000.
There's
Yeah.
probably 3,000 or 4,000 guys. Still a small number, but like there's probably double that could play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of then. This is why I was arguing with with myself, but within this podcast about it's the measurables that can get you the seat at the table, but then you have to be good at football. But if you're just good at football and you don't have the measurables, but you're good enough to be at the NFL, they're probably not going to give you a shot because they don't have the insurance policy, right? We saw this Alex Gubner too. He's a game wrecker. Like if that guy got into a actual camp, you would have a hard time cutting him because he goes so hard and he disrupts so much stuff. But he's got short arms and he's 6'2" instead of 6'4", and like he has all these things. That's weird too. Like you're watching him jump and you're watching him run. You're like, man, this guy's explosive. He's got 34-inch vertical. But then you look at his arms and they're half the length of the guy from the SEC, and you're like, well, sorry, pal. Like we could take. You guys are both pretty comparable football players, but this guy's 6'4", 310 pounds, and you're not. And so I just think
That's it.
Yep, and that's why guys like Okada are so impressive because he's tiny. But he got himself a seat at the table by having a wicked pro day. And then just busted his absolute balls, over and over again, and as the pick of the preseason. He basically makes the team over Patrick O'Connell by making the play of the preseason. It's pretty crazy to think.
It is, and and who can predict when those players are going to come available and how you're going to make them? And it's still not clear to me he actually caught the football, but they gave it to him, and guess what? He's a Seattle Seahawk, so good for him, and he deserves it. But I think a lot of that stuff is sort of like the path works out for you in some sense. But again, I think you're so right, man. Like the 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 razor's edge that gets this guy in and this guy didn't quite get there, and picking guys who are clearly like, are they picking the best 53 guys to play on a team? I don't think so. I
Right.
think they're picking the best 40, 44 guys.
Right.
And then the 9 guys who they think have the ceiling to do it, even though clearly there's 15 better players right now on their team in their camp, but they're getting cut because this guy is running a 4.34
Right. Totally.
and can't read a play, but my goodness, you can't teach speed. We're keeping him.
Yep. And that's
You
why,
know?
and I think all positions are not created equal too. I think the receiver
Yeah.
is probably the second hardest position to make it at besides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I think kicker and punter are probably the hardest positions to make it at because, I mean, how many guys ever even leave the league, right? It's the same freaking kickers. Like one kicker gets to bust into the
Just
league.
recent, like Brandon McManus is still kicking
Yeah,
in the
right.
NFL.
I mean, Justin Tucker is still kicking in the NFL, dude. Like, what else do we even need to know?
Is he?
I think he still is.
For who?
I
Not
don't
for
know.
Baltimore.
Oh yeah, maybe. No, you're right. Last year he got cut, and then
No,
he.
he's out. He's
Right.
out. But
Regardless.
the point is well taken. Yes.
Meeting her stopped your world. The ring you give her should stop her heart.
Tina, will you marry me?
Not again! Don't worry, I'm gonna fix this because we want to be your jeweler on our beautiful diamond! Clear! Come back to me, Tina! Are you okay?
Valley's Restoration, your view is our view, and what a beautiful view it is. We are proud to be locally owned, locally operated. We love our community here in Missoula and also the full 5 valleys that we do service. We give back to the community, we service our community. Our kids go to school here, we live here, we play here, and we love it.
All right, Big Set Breakdown, probably presented by Five Valleys Restoration. I had a flood in my house right before I was about to sell it. That was a disaster. Five Valleys Restoration fixed it for me, and they did what above and beyond. The buyer's agent didn't like what we had put in there, and they came in and renovated the whole thing in 24 hours and did it completely right for me, and they literally saved my butt. So Five Valleys Restoration is absolutely high quality work. They've done multiple projects for me, revamped my crawl space as well in my old house, and I wouldn't go anywhere else. They are the best of the best of Western Montana. So if you have any sort of restoration need, any sort of disaster in your house, call Five Valleys Restoration today. All right, so those watching on the Zoom, I am wearing a Central Washington football shirt. This is completely not on any sort of purpose. As you can tell, this is completely faded. I got this from Blaine Bennett circa 2009. It's just like my, relaxing shirt. Didn't even realize I was wearing it until right now as we're, 15 minutes into the Zoom call. So here we are. Griz plays Central Washington. What do you got?
Phillies.
Okay. Nice.
I just like the shirt.
Yeah, I know.
And here we go. Chicago Bulls. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan or a fan of either team. I like them both, but I like the gear, and it was the right price. That's me. And by right price, I mean, I stole it.
Okay, so Griz opened this weekend against Central Washington at home.
Yes.
Play South Dakota State in Bozeman. We already did sort of big, broad narratives. I have a couple other big picture questions for you, but which way do you want to go? Want to go Griz? You want to go Cats? Which way are we taking this?
Well, I mean, Cats is 2-3, so it seems like the reason. I mean, it's the game of the weekend in the country happening in Bozeman at the FCS level. So that's a good place to start.
So back to that narrative. So first of all, the coaching musical chairs that happened in the offseason was fascinating because you had Fresno State open up, New Mexico open up, Washington State open up, I feel like there was one other job that came open. Um,
New Mexico. Did you say that?
New Mexico, Fresno State,
Yeah.
um, Washington State. I feel like there was a fourth one. Regardless, Matt Ans, former North Dakota State head coach, gets the Fresno State job over Brett Vegan. But then Vegan's in the mix at New Mexico, but he doesn't want it. Jason Eck from Idaho gets the job. Then Vegan goes hard into the mix at Washington State. Who knows the actual details of why that didn't work out? But one report was that he was going to take Jimmy Rogers from South Dakota State with him as his defensive coordinator. Well, Vegan's still coaching as the Bobcats are on their way to the national championship. Jimmy Rogers and South Dakota State lose in Fargo to North Dakota State. Now there's like this 2 week buffer between the semis and the national championship. And who ends up in Pullman? Jimmy Rogers. And what does he do? He takes his entire coaching staff, literally every guy, and he also takes 17 South Dakota State players. So they're all looking around like, what the heck just happened? We don't have a coach. We have a bunch of our roster gone. Well, then in the meantime, the Cats, they graduate almost 30 seniors. They get a whole bunch of guys into the portal. And Vegan has a whole exodus on his coaching staff, even though he ends up not leaving. He ends up staying. So pretty fascinating the way those dynamics played in. But I do think that Dan Jackson, the new head coach at South Dakota State, and Brent Vegan, the incumbent coach at Montana State, have done a great job of pulling that all together and rallying the troops around sort of the same common theme. Everybody in the country's talking about what all you guys lost. What about all the guys that stayed? You guys are the ones that stayed. Let's go do it. And I don't know what to gauge for Montana State's first game against Oregon. That's a total
Yeah.
anomaly. But South Dakota State looked like a team on a freaking mission on Saturday. They destroyed Sac State. They only gave up 7 first downs in the whole game. And we can get more into the demise of Sac, or not the demise, but the failings, at least in week 1 of Sac State in a minute. But I just think
Sac State, the University of North Carolina of the FCS.
no kidding, right? Yeah, no kidding. I just think it's a fun narrative with all of the constant, these guys are leaving, what's going on? The FCS is a farm system, like all these negative things you can say. Well, guess what? A bunch of the really good players in the FCS stayed at South Dakota State and Montana State, and now we get to see them play each other on Saturday.
Well, and here's the thing: is like you highlighted all the things of all the the entire coaching staff leaving, 17 dudes leaving Brookings, all the graduated players, and a bunch of coordinators leaving Montana State. It's still 2 versus 3 in the country.
Exactly.
And I think that is, I mean, I realize it's hard to know anything beyond, hey, what happened last year? Okay, we'll put the Bison one and we'll slot these 2 in afterward. I mean, it makes sense. But also I think it's an understanding of these are programs.
Yes.
And they're at universities who where they are going, the dips are never going to be as severe as they will at other places. And when I say never, I just mean like, for the time being, right? These things ebb and flow over time greatly. But like at this moment in time, this last, 5 to 8 years, and for the foreseeable future, like it feels like the worst that either of these teams could be is maybe just outside the top 10 in the country or something like that. And that would be like, well, what's going on here, type
Exactly.
of deal. So I think it's a belief in the universities and the football programs, and that they're just going to continue to be good. And again, I think both South Dakota State and Montana State as programs have shown, hey, we've been elite level programs from one head coach to another, and now to another in the case of SDSU. And obviously, as we talked about, last week, the expectations of what is on Coach Vegan this year, because we've already seen him do it before, and keep the bar extremely high after losing an elite class, after losing coordinators. And so the expectation is what it is. And I think, again, to watch what South Dakota State did to Sac State, who, how do they say, won the offseason, or maybe lost, depending on how you want to think about it. But they got put in their place right quick by the Jackrabbits on Saturday. And Montana State, to your point, the only thing about playing a team like Oregon is the injuries that you can come away with. And Hopefully, they're going to be all right overall. But I think that's just one thing. But I do think, I mean, it's a heck of a schedule to go on the road to Eugene and then host the number 3 team in the country and SDSU in your opening 2 weeks of football. Like, you know, that is just, I mean, I applaud it, but that's pretty tough out the gate before you've gotten your feet underneath you. I mean, maybe if you've got a Tommy Malott who's in his 3rd or 4th year and, the dudes around him that where you're like, okay, we know what we got here. But to be kind of starting a whole new operation with those 2 opening weekend games is it's a big bite.
It's absolutely a big bite, and you get this huge test right out the gate. But there's Tom Stuber wrote a great story for us at Skyline Sports. You can find it right now, SkylineSportsMT.com, and it was about Montana State and their constant clashes with the 2 Dakota State schools over the last 8 years. This will be the 6th time in 8 years that Montana State's played South Dakota State, including the 3rd time in the regular season. Part of that's because Leon Costello came from South Dakota State, so he has pretty consistently signed home and home type of contracts with SDSU, which gives us these awesome early season games. And then Montana State has also played North Dakota State, I believe, 6 times as well since 2017. Guess how many times Montana State has beat the Dakota States? In that
1 or 2?
One.
Yep, beat SDSU once.
Yep, defeated North Dakota State every single one of those in the playoffs, and they have beat South Dakota State in the semifinals of the 2021 playoffs. Other than that, have not beat the Jackrabbits. So that's the thing is Montana State has climbed to these consistently great heights, yet have still been stuck right here, like at base camp, while these other 2 teams have been sitting here flirting at the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope that on a game like this, with it being the Gold Rush game, we can say that the atmosphere is going to be great. And let me say this: the atmosphere will be great. I hope it's electric.
Yes,
I hope it's better than great. You know what I mean? I think you can fill it up and still not have the full engagement, the full throat of everybody in attendance sometimes, depending, on how the game goes or whatever. Just give South Dakota State just something to think about on 3rd down. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I think that would be great. And I expect that's what's going to happen. But it's going to be that's a great way to open up that game, that the Gold Rush game, to have that matchup. That's great. I mean, Central Washington coming to Washington Grizzly to open it up. It's going to be an exciting game. I actually think it's maybe going to be a little better, a little more competitive game than what Montana fans maybe want it to be.
Sure.
But it is not the juicy matchup to open things up at home that the Jackrabbits going to Bozeman is.
3 fun statistics for you, and then we'll take a quick break here with Ryan Tootell, probably presented in part by the Bobcat Collective. If you'd like to contribute and or become a member of the Bobcat Collective, visit bobcatcollective.com. You can also go bobcatcollective.com/Skyline. Get yourself a little free trial membership there with Montana State's NIL Collective. Montana State has won 38 of their last 40 games at home. They have not lost a regular season home game since 2019. And Brent Vegan has never lost a regular season home game as the Bobcat head coach. Yet, South Dakota State comes to Bozeman as 3.5-point favorites. That's going to be something that the crowd is aware of. I know not everybody, and actually probably most people are not sports bettors at this moment, but they know when that kind of stuff, it sort of matriculates its way into the conversations, and that's certainly going to have an effect on, I think, their ferocity.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a great night in Bozeman for this game in terms of atmosphere and fun, and I hope that the game lives up to that. I hope the game is great. And I think that it will be. I mean, I think there's a really good chance that this game is everything that we want it to be from a competitive standpoint. It is wild that Brent Vegan has not lost a regular season home game ever.
right?
I mean, that's really saying something, because I mean, you could talk about, okay, the non-conference schedule and what, but like, you have basically played every single team in the Big Sky at least once, and most of them twice at home. That's top to bottom. And yeah, for every Northern Colorado, there's a Montana Grizzly football team, and for every whatever down and out Weber State, there's an up and coming Idaho. And you haven't blinked once. And I mean, that's what runs to the semifinals, runs to the national championship look like, man. Is just holding serve at home, and it's just like doesn't matter who's up.
Well, he's also only lost 11 games, and 3 of them were to FBS teams. 2 of them were in Missoula. 3 of them were to North Dakota State. 2 of them were South Dakota State.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, the one
Yeah.
anomaly is Idaho, and that was like 1 year before Idaho had their epic rise, but it's still a terrible loss. It's on the road at Idaho. Take a break right here with Ryan Tootell. Be back on the Big Sky Breakdown right after this.
Thanks so much for listening to the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to both the podcast and all your various podcast hosting networks and to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks to our great partners, including Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn are ace attorneys, each with different expertise. Paul Ryan, the master when it comes to DUIs. Angie Miller, excellent in medical malpractice. Abigail Coburn, federal drug charges. She's the one you want defending you. They can help in any and all sorts of criminal defense cases. They have a live answering service that's available 24 hours a day, 406-542-2233. You can also visit rmcattorneys.com. Ryan and Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. Let's hear from RMC right now. Tell me about the expansion. You have now 2 partners. Angie's been with you for a while, but now Abigail joins the team as well. So just tell me about how this has all been going.
Really excited about both of them, starting with Angie, who's came to us before she even started law school. And she's just developed into such an amazing attorney and person and friend, frankly. I can't be more happy with her and her results. She's such a hard worker and a fighter, and we're just so pleased to have her, carry the torch into the future. And then with regard to Abigail, another great story. She had interned for our office when she was going to law school, and then after she graduated, she did other things. And then we were really fortunate. It was a chance meeting at the courthouse, and everything just came together. And the timing was right for her, and the timing was right for us to bring her on. And she's been amazing. She is such a tough attorney, and she takes on very, very difficult cases, and her results are amazing. And it's just a perfect fit for all of us.
Thanks so much for listening to our Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you have not, please rate, review, and subscribe. Particularly subscribe. Click on the subscribe button. That helps us out a ton. Thanks to our great partners who help make all of this content possible, including Ty Hobbs at Keller Williams Real Estate. Ty's a great friend of mine, guy I lift weights with in the mornings, and a guy I golf with as much as I can, but he's also an ace realtor. I did not choose him as my realtor because he's my friend, although that was a big perk. He is excellent when it comes to everything from efficiency to negotiation to no frills, no BS. He got our house on the market and got it sold in less than 24 hours, more like 4 hours. It was an impressive turnaround. He got us exactly the contract that we wanted. We needed to stay in our house for a couple months because we had a new build coming up. He negotiated that flawlessly. The negotiation part is the number one reason why we chose Ty, but he also has a great acumen when it comes to construction, building, remodels. We had a flood in our house that I needed help with repairing. Boom. He helped me out. Awesome service, awesome job. And if you're in the market for a realtor, Ty Hobbs is your guy. Let's hear more about the current real estate market from the man himself.
So a reminder, I'm wearing the Central Washington football shirt because I covered Central Washington for 2 seasons at the beginning of my sports writer career. It was an experience like no other for several reasons. But first of all, when I first got to Ellensburg, Washington, the head coach at the time, Blaine Bennett, who had been the quarterback's coach at Purdue when Drew Brees was there, so he had a lot of clout. He was, first of all, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And he knew I was going to be the sports editor at the newspaper there. So he took me to lunch, and we got to know each other a little bit. And then my first weekend in town, he calls me. So Friday night, this is in the off season. He calls me. It's Friday night. He said, "What are you up to tonight?" I said, "I don't know. I just moved here. I have no friends and no plans." And he said, "I'm gonna come get you." And he came and got me at my house, and we went to a couple boosters, like a booster party, basically. And I got to meet all these people that were like big time into Central Washington football. And he introduced me to all these people, and I just thought that was so nice. And he gave me this shirt, and so this is the only shirt that I wear of any team I've ever covered. So this is just completely coincidental that I'm wearing this right now as Montana hosts Central Washington. I'm by no means rooting for or against the Griz or for or against Central Washington, but it is a good memory of mine. And Blaine Bennett is the man. He still coaches over there at Post Falls High School, and I just appreciate him for kind of taking me under my wing when I was a 23-year-old sports writer with my first job.
Well, and on behalf of the group, starting with myself here presently and everybody else that will watch this later on, we also want to thank him, because if it was that shirt or you just with no shirt, we all want you to wear that shirt. So thank you.
All right. So I talked to Mike Farrader today, former Griz receiver, who's the OC there at Central Washington.
Yeah.
And you can check that out on this YouTube channel and on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast and on Nuanez Now, all the various outlets we have. Fun catching up with Mike. But one subject I wanted to discuss, though, with you is that they are operating under a pretty different model than they were when I was covering them. They were like a tamer version of Last Chance U. When I was covering Central Washington, they would bring in 30, 40 transfers every offseason. The second year I was covering them, Simon Fraser joined the Great Northwest Conference,
yeah,
which
yeah.
was the first Canadian team to play American rules football.
Yeah.
Well, Blaine Bennett hired a specific grad assistant that year, and his job was explicitly to get everybody on the team passports because they had to take a bus over the Canadian border to go to Burnaby.
Yeah.
He also had to make sure that everybody could pass a background check because you can't have gotten in very much trouble to cross the Canadian border and go into Canada. So everybody got their passports. The first time they were about to go over the border, the grad assistants were driving in a car behind the bus in case nobody could get over the border. And in fact, 3 guys couldn't. They got turned away because they had gotten, whatever. I think one had a DUI, one had a misdemeanor assault charge or whatever. Not happening. Can't come to Canada. So
not going.
Get in the car with the grad assistants and drive back to Ellensburg. That's all to say Central Washington is by and large now under Chris Fisk using a high school recruiting model. They're trying to recruit just like the best guys that aren't going to Eastern Washington, basically, and build a team like that. So I think that there is this notion that, Central has had some good teams in the past. They've come into Washington Grizzly Stadium before and given the Grizz a run. It's been a while. That was 2008 when they came in and gave Montana a scare. I just don't know what to think of this team, though, because I think that the Grizz fans might actually be on high alert because Ferris State was such a good game 2 years ago. But that Ferris State team was sort of the old school D2 model where you have a bunch of drop downs. They had guys that had transferred from Michigan and Illinois and all that. Central doesn't really have that. So I don't know. But what you made a comment earlier that you said that you thought it might be a more competitive game than Grizz fans maybe want. Why do you think that?
It has to do with 2 things, but one is the very primary thing. But I'll start with the secondary thing. Central Washington is a good football team. They're not not just a D2 middle of the road club. They're good. That said, that shouldn't matter. The reason I say that is because they've played a game and Montana has not.
Interesting.
And I just think Bobby Houck said this in his press conference, and I couldn't agree more that it's a huge advantage to have played a game. Now, it shouldn't matter, right? This should be all about the University of Montana. It should be all about the Grizzlies. In fact, let me say it clearly. It is all about the Grizzlies. If the Grizz come out and are ready to go and are comfortable and can play a solid version of who they should be in their first game, they will win this game. They should win it handily. But look at Alabama, right? Alabama goes down to Florida State and they're ready to shut the program down. I mean, it's just like, what in the world was that? Well, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it. You can't have that type of performance in the first week, but it does happen. And that's where Central Washington, they played, man. They know they got to win. They know what they feel like. They know what they're, who they are. To some extent, they got their feet wet, and they're going to be just more comfortable. But to be playing in your first football game, where again, no preseason, to go out there, you just don't know how the team's going to respond, and those are the things that would make me very, very nervous as a head coach when you're in this weird situation with your first week being your open week, and now you got to go play a team, that's already played a game. So if this was same, I would think, watch till half, and and if you got to watch beyond that, it's probably a little bit of a disappointment. But that still very well may be the case. But I think that this game has more intrigue just in virtue of that reason.
Well, I think that there's a third reason to add to this too, and that's because it's September in Washington Grizzly Stadium with a Bobby Houck coach team against a opponent that the football world at large feels the Grizz are an extreme advantage against over, right? So what's Bobby Houck going to do? He's going to play as many guys as he possibly can, and he's going to try to a certain extent, create adverse situations within the game for his team to overcome. Like, how many times have we seen? There's been some times when the Grizz come out and they run roughshod over a team, like when Northwestern State came to Missoula a couple years back and they lost like 47-0. But for every time that's happened, we've had the Butler game 2 years ago when this non-scholarship Butler team comes to Missoula and they take the Grizz into the fourth quarter. The Grizz end up winning by like 2 scores or whatever, but it's not nearly as easy as what the Grizz Nation faithful want. And I think that part of that, it is a tad bit calculated, right? I think that Coach Houck, he does want to have as many guys roll through the ranks and get their feet wet and be a part of a win. And I think they do want to try stuff out while also not revealing too much. Like, they do all this stuff that's like this weird balancing act between trying to execute their stuff, but also trying to not show a bunch on film so they can continue to confuse the opponent moving forward. I guess the third, so that's my point, is the third reason that this thing might be, not 49-0 like the Grizz fans want, is because of the way that they're probably going to operate within this game. And I think that's going to probably be the way that the most of the first month of the season plays out for Montana.
Let me ask you this. How many quarterbacks are going to play for the Grizzlies on Saturday?
I think we are almost certain who the first one's going to be, but I don't think he'll be the only one.
Yeah. Well, probably right about that. But I think, look, man, if you got to play a game against a team that has already played, this is good. I mean, I don't think Montana would want South Dakota State coming in with a game under their belt to play against them. You know what I mean? You got to get live action out there, get the feel for it again, both for the players as individuals and then, of course, as a team and as a group. Get that game under your belt. The good thing for Montana, 4 consecutive home games to open up this thing. I mean, it is just
the first 7 too.
Just stay in Missoula and just do it. But some really good. I mean, I think the North Dakota game coming up is a very intriguing game. Obviously, Idaho is in that slate too in this first month of the season, so it's really good. But yeah, I think Saturday is. It wouldn't matter who you're playing. To see a team play for the first time, it just is so intriguing. Like, you just can't take your eyes off it. Like, what are these guys going to look like? What is the team going to be? Who's going to flash? What are the schemes going to be? What are the things that are working? What is not working? And get a flavor for what the 2025 season is going to look like. So it's it's going to be an interesting game for that reason alone, no matter what. And obviously, it's just football time, man. I mean, the Grizz fans, the poor Grizz fans, man, they're sitting here just waiting. I mean, there's gonna be teams who will have completed their third game of the season
There's six
before
of them.
Montana kicks off.
Six
I
of
mean,
them that will
that's
be completed their
insane. So you're
third
sitting
game.
there in the University of Montana just going, can we just please play a football game already?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's wild because like part of it is like sort of by choice because they decided to fill that open date with their last non-conference game
Yeah,
with Sacred Heart, so then they like leave that first date open. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm still trying to weigh if that part is an advantage because when I first saw the week one bye, I thought that meant they got an extra week of prep. But the NCAA doesn't they count the week one bye against you, so you can't open camp the same time as everybody else. You have to open it
yeah,
late. Like you have
yeah,
to open it however many days out from your first game instead of
yeah.
the week of everybody else's first game. So
Right.
they lost a whole week of practice time in there too. So I don't know. I'm still trying to gauge if that's an advantage or not.
Well, my guess is it's not an advantage for Montana, and I think that they just hope that, it just doesn't really matter and that they can play a good enough, clean enough game to handle it. And you would expect, like, no matter what happens in the first, maybe it is a close game at halftime, but like once you get the half under your belt, you go out and you talk about it, figure out where you're at, and you come out and assert yourselves. I do think it matters though to some extent. Uh, you know, the Grizzlies coming off a very, very poor season. And I don't want to hear about the spinsters and about, well, the record and, well, playoff win, whatever. No, bad, real bad.
So then
Can't let that happen again. Don't get off to a soft start against a D2 team. Go out, win the football game, be like, hey, this is Washington Grizzlies Stadium. This is the Montana Grizzlies. This is what we do here. Let's roll. That's what you want to see, and I think that that's an important message to send.
I think it is, and I think they're going to want to send it. I do,
Yeah, I agree.
especially because North Dakota is going to come in with the head of steam. I mean, Fighting Hawks they took number 17 Kansas State all the way down the wire last week. Only
Yes,
lost 3.
I mean that was very close to a win.
I mean, they're gonna kill Portland State this week. Poor Bruce Barnum. I mean, the worst schedule in the history of college football. Have you seen this? I mean, they get Tarleton State to come to Portland, but then they play on national TV in Hillsboro, so they have to embarrass themselves just by being on ESPN2, and then they lose 42-0. They go to BYU last week. They lose 69-0. They get outrushed by 470 yards, and then they got to go to Grand Forks to play a top 20 team that's coming off of a near upset of Kansas State. And then they got to get on the plane and go to Hawaii.
Play a team that beat Stanford.
So it's like, what did the Grand Forks Herald article say? That it's like 9,000 plane miles in the last 3 weeks for Portland. I guess at least they're not riding a bus. Once upon a time, they ride the bus.
Well, the bus ride to Hawaii is a difficult one.
Oh, man. All right, so last 2 things for you then.
Yeah.
Montana State, should we do the ESPN talk radio thing? Is this a must win for the Cats? But I do think, though, being 0-2 after you went 15-0 the year before and being on a 3-game winning streak or losing streak, excuse me, when you count the national championship game, that's uncharted territory, right? Like if they were to if Montana State loses on Saturday, you're talking 3 of Brett Vigen's 12 losses have been in the last 3 times out. That's a weird situation to be in. So, but I don't think it's a must win. I just think that if they don't win, it's going to make the whole situation very dire, and then everything's a must win. But I'm not quite calling it a must win. What do you think of just the magnitude of this for the Cats, given what they endured last week and what they have coming to town this week?
It's a 0 out of 10 on the magnitude scale. It is not. It's important only insofar as you expect to see this team again.
Yeah, right.
But it is not important beyond that at all. 0-2 matters not at all. It's a 24-team playoff. The Montana State Bobcats are going to be just fine.
Sure.
And you go out and you put your best foot forward, obviously want to win the football game, but none of this, oh man, they're 0-2 to start the season. What's going on? Like this. Now, if they went out and got blasted.
Sure, right. Can't operate, quarterback can't function, can't run
But
the
that's
ball.
not about being 0-2. That's
No,
about
right.
what's the competitive level that you're at here. So
Totally.
that would be a game analysis situation. That wouldn't be about the record. But if you're talking about just winning and losing, it don't matter.
So let's start with, how would you characterize the real estate market currently in both Missoula and Western Montana?
Well, currently in Missoula, we've seen a rise in inventory and buyer activity slow down a little bit. So it's turning more into a buyer's market, more than I've probably ever seen in the last 10 years or so.
So what does that mean, a buyer's market? How would you define that?
A buyer's market is really just means that there's more homes for sale than there are buyer demand. So buyers have choices, especially in negotiations.
And that means less leverage for somebody that's selling their house, more leverage for somebody that's tried to buy a house, correct?
Correct. More leverage for buyers.
Okay, so if you are a buyer and you hire you as your realtor, how do you go about then sort of taking advantage of that said advantage?
Well, right now you have the upper hand in negotiations, right? And first we start with a CMA and get a value and see where that price falls in, or where the value is for the buyers. And then there's other things that we can negotiate, such as like seller concessions to help buy down the interest rate, or give you a temporary break or relief on an interest rate to help with that monthly payment. So
if people want to find out about that and other listings that you have, how do they find them?
Best way is just get a hold of me by phone, 406-544-9794.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that the only thing is that it does put your back against the wall a little bit in terms of making a real run. Because as we know, like, the home field advantage is the thing, and so it might just drop you down. I mean, at some point, somebody's got to go win a road game in the playoffs, right? And the Cats did it in 21, and that was the thing that broke the bracket
completely. But
that only happened twice, though. It's when the Griz went to James Madison in 08 and the Cats in 21 at Sam Houston. That's it.
I know, but you're winning home games because you're the better team.
Sure.
Nobody in the round of 16 that's ranked in the 13 to 20th best teams in the country is going to Fargo and winning, is going to Bozeman and winning, is going to Brooklyn. That's not happening. So of course it's a rare thing that happens. But when you get into the quarters and especially the semis, it still matters. It certainly matters. But it isn't like the fact that Austin P went to Bozeman and lost is not stacked against the team that's on the road in the semifinal. You know what I mean? That doesn't matter. Okay. The fact that Middle Tennessee State came to Missoula and didn't win, none of that stuff that's inconsequential. So it is significant, but it isn't overwhelming in that way to me.
And guess what North Dakota State's done, too? They've got on the road and won on the playoffs a couple times.
That's right.
They went to Montana State and beat Montana State in Bozeman a couple years ago before they came to the Griz and lost to Montana and Missoula. Okay, for the Griz, then, what constitutes success? Is it just about how they look? To me, it's just about how they execute. Do they look fluid defensively? Do they look back to being, high pressure and ferocious? And how's Ayada operate? Does he take command of the offense? And what's the offensive line look like? It's the details for me. I'm not really going to judge it based on the score. They're 28-point dogs. I don't think they have to cover for me to be satisfied with the victory, or 28-point favorites, excuse me. I don't think they have to cover to be satisfied with the overall point margin. I just want to see how they execute. I think they need to look smooth together and like they're moving in the right direction.
I totally agree with that. I agree with that just across the board. I do think the offensive line is something that I'll be looking at. The question is how much are you going to be able to tell against Central Washington? If you're not getting beat against Central Washington up front, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're where you should be. We can say if you are getting beat, it definitely means it's a major problem. But, again, it's how much are you really going to be able to take out of this game? I don't know. But I think, to your point, the operation, is it smooth? Is it fluid? And is the energy level where it needs to be? Is the get after it, the party on the pile, all that stuff, is it present and accounted for? Because, if it's not there in game one of all the games, it seems like, up until, maybe you start to get into the real meat and potatoes of of Cat Griz in the postseason. Like the first game is the game where you should just be on fire. You know what I mean? It's been so long since you played a game. Like go out there, fly around in your home stadium, go get the thing done. But also to your point, it has to be as a group. It has to be fluid. It has to be within the context of the scheme that you're running, and you gotta, and I think it'll be clear at that point. Like, hey, this is going the way that it should go for the University of Montana. This is what they need to look like. So it'll be 100% eye test. The stats out of this game, don't bring them to me.
Right.
Don't bring them to me. Talk to me about how it looks.
No doubt. But there's so many guys that are playing the first time at Washington Grizz. And as Bobby Houckins said adamantly this whole offseason, hey, we recruited to all these different things last year. This year we recruited to, do you want to win? Do you want to play in front of a sweet home atmosphere? Do you want to be a part of this Grizz tradition? Like that's what they recruited to this year. And they think they got buy-in across the board from all these guys. Now these guys get a chance to run out of the tunnel, be a part of the tradition, see the whole spectacle, do it for the first time. So I'm thinking the same thing. They need to play with their hair on fire. Right?
Can't wait. Can't wait. Both games and staggered so we can watch them both, which is great. And it's going to be. Is it under the lights in Missoula?
No, they're both at the same time.
Yeah, they're both at the same time. That's right. I was for some reason I was thinking just Montana usually just the noon kickoff or 1 o'clock, but no, both night games. So okay, well we'll have to record one. That's all right.
It's all right. Ryan Tootell joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown, probably presented in part by Cash One Pawn. Cash One Pawn, the premier pawn shop in Western Montana. You want to shop online? Make Cash One Pawn part of your shopping habits. Cash the number one. Pawn.com. You can also visit their awesome showroom out there on Roller Coaster Road, just past the Missoula Airport, just short of the Y in the Garden City. All right, last question for you.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer's paying Kawhi Leonard under the table. How often is this happening in the NBA, the NFL? You have to think Robert Kraft was giving Tom Brady the lost, the forlorn son kickback. You had to think that Mark Cuban's given Dirk Nowitzki stock options. How much is this happening in the professional sports world?
Are there kickbacks? Are there considerations made? So many, so very many. This is at $38 million or $28 million.
$28 million, yeah.
Not that. And the thing is like, if this is what it is, it's Steve Ballmer should go to jail for stupidity alone.
Right.
Like, all you got to do is just pay him an obnoxious amount of money and put him in a commercial.
Sure, right.
And then it's like, well,
right.
But like
right.
this is to here's the difference. None of the other kickbacks are done, quote, quote, to circumvent the salary cap, right?
Exactly.
Which is gaining the competitive advantage
right.
that is illegal within the context of the association.
Right.
I don't think that is happening.
No.
Anywhere else.
There was always the joke that like Mark Cuban, every time he had a startup, he would say, "Hey Dirk, you keep signing for the hometown deal, and I give you some stock options." Which, okay, whatever. Kevin Durant had that show, The Boardroom, and he openly talked about how he did business deals with the Golden State Warriors guys all the time. Like they would say, "Hey Kevin, we got this thing you should invest in." Okay, great. I'll take the money you're paying me and I'll invest in your company. I think that probably happens. That's just business.
It is just business, and it's exposure, and like, I mean, I don't have a particular problem with a lot of that stuff. I haven't gotten through all of this, what's going on with the Kawhi stuff, but I've heard enough. And I mean, dude, of all the people, you being a dyed-in-the-wool journalist should just be so happy about the work Pablo Torre is doing. I mean, he is a virtuoso sports journalist when it comes to this story. What's the other
podcast pissed so many people off, and I just love it. I just think it's so great because he's just digging stuff up, and he's just
and the stuff like with the NFLPA and their whole hiring process. Oh, it's just insane. So Yeah, this is a wild one though, and if that like actually happened, it's just so dumb because it would have been just so easy to not like to just hire for instead of doing literally nothing, doing like next to nothing.
Right. I didn't even think of that. Like you could just say, "Hey, Kawhi, you're gonna film our like season ticket promo commercial, and we're gonna pay you 30 million."
$28 million.
Yeah, it's just so easy.
Yeah, it is just so easy. So like why wouldn't you do it? Which is part of the argument that says actually nothing bad happened here because it would be so absurdly stupid.
Right.
But also it does look like that's where I mean there's more to come for sure, but like wow, what a deal.
What a deal. Ryan Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown. Thanks for doing it, man.
Bet.